Aaron stood at the edge of the spaceport, his eyes following the massive exploration ship as it hummed softly, preparing for launch. It was his first mission beyond the inner colonies of Earth, and his heart raced with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had trained for years, learning how to operate the ship's systems, navigate through deep space, and respond to emergencies. Yet nothing in his experience could fully prepare him for the reality of leaving home behind. "First time?" a calm voice asked beside him. Aaron turned to see Lyra, the ship's star navigator. Her tall, graceful figure seemed to move with the fluidity of starlight itself, and her pale blue eyes held a quiet curiosity. She was from a distant star system, a species known for their connection to the cosmos. Her voice was soft but certain, and it carried a rhythm that reminded Aaron of gentle waves on a quiet beach. "Yes," Aaron admitted, trying to hide his nervousness. "I've trained a lot, but I've never been this far from Earth before." Lyra smiled faintly. "The stars have a way of reminding us how small we are," she said, "but also how much we can learn if we are willing to watch carefully." Her words made Aaron pause. There was something peaceful about her confidence, something that made the vastness of space feel less frightening. He nodded and followed her onto the ship. The interior was sleek and bright, with polished floors that reflected the soft light of the observation panels. Crew members moved with purpose, checking instruments and preparing for departure. Aaron noticed a few friendly faces, humans and aliens alike, but he felt a quiet pull toward Lyra, who moved through the corridors with calm assurance. He watched her from a distance, wondering what it would be like to work closely with someone so different yet so focused. When the launch alarm sounded, Aaron's pulse quickened. He took his position at the control console, hands hovering over the panels as the countdown began. Outside the ship, the blue and green of Earth slowly receded as the engines roared to life. The sensation of leaving the planet was both thrilling and strange, as if the familiar warmth of home had been replaced by an endless dark expanse, dotted with pinpoints of light. "Breathe," Lyra said quietly from her station. Her presence beside him felt grounding, as if her calm energy could steady even the most anxious heart. Aaron nodded, exhaling slowly. The first few hours passed in a blur of calculations, system checks, and navigation adjustments. Despite the stress, Aaron found moments to glance at Lyra, who seemed perfectly at ease. She scanned the stars, her fingers moving over a holographic map with a rhythm that made him realize how much skill and intuition she possessed. During a brief break, Aaron stepped onto the observation deck. The vastness of space stretched before him, more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. Stars shimmered like scattered diamonds, and distant planets glowed faintly in the darkness. He felt a shiver of awe. Space was immense, mysterious, and infinitely beautiful. Lyra appeared beside him, her expression thoughtful as she looked out at the stars. "It never gets old," she said softly. "Even after centuries of exploration, I can still feel the wonder every time I see the stars." Aaron nodded, feeling a strange connection to her words. "I thought I would be used to it after all the training," he admitted. "But seeing it with my own eyes, it's nothing like I imagined," she smiled gently. "There is always more to see than we can imagine, and perhaps the journey is as much about learning from each other as it is about the stars themselves." Her words lingered in Aaron's mind. He realized that this mission was not just about exploration or discovery. It was also about connection, between crew members, between species, and perhaps in time between hearts. As the ship continued its journey into the unknown, Aaron felt a quiet determination. He would do everything he could to honor this opportunity, to learn from the vast universe, and to understand the mysterious navigator who had already begun to leave a mark on his heart. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, and for the first time Aaron felt that he was not alone in the vastness of space. Someone else shared the wonder, the curiosity, and perhaps the possibility of something more. Days passed aboard the exploration ship, and Aaron began to settle into the rhythm of life in space. He moved through his duties with growing confidence, checking systems, monitoring navigation, and assisting the crew wherever he could. Yet no matter how busy he was, he found himself noticing Lyra more and more. She always seemed calm, her eyes focused on the stars, her hands moving gracefully across her navigation instruments. There was something about her that made the endless blackness outside feel less lonely. One evening, as the ship cruised quietly through a star cluster, Aaron found himself on the observation deck again. The stars stretched endlessly, their light shimmering in patterns that seemed almost musical. He wasn't alone for long. Lyra quietly joined him, her presence calm and steady. She didn't speak at first, simply letting the silence and the beauty of the stars fill the space between them. Finally, Aaron broke the silence. "Do you ever get tired of watching the stars?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head slightly, her pale blue eyes reflecting the distant lights. "No," she said softly. "They tell stories if you are willing to listen. Each light, each movement, it has meaning. And sometimes they remind me of people, their journeys and their courage." Aaron smiled. Her words made him think differently about the stars. Until now he had seen them only as points of light, markers for navigation and exploration. But she saw them as something alive, something that connected worlds and hearts. Curious, he asked, "Can you teach me?" Lyra's smile was faint but warm. "I can try," she replied. "The first lesson is simple. Look for patterns. Stars move in ways that tell a story. Some stories are about beginnings, some about endings, and some about journeys we have yet to take." Aaron leaned closer, watching her hand trace imaginary lines between the stars. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. "I never thought of it this way." For the next few hours they shared stories. Aaron told Lyra about Earth, the mountains, the oceans, the sunsets, and the simple moments of everyday life that he loved. He described the way sunlight felt on his skin, the smell of rain, and the warmth of family gatherings. Lyra listened with wonder, her eyes wide and her expression gentle. She asked questions, trying to understand these human experiences, and each answer seemed to bring her closer to the world Aaron came from. In return, Lyra told him about her home world, a planet bathed in soft blue light and dotted with floating cities. She spoke of the traditions of her people, of their connection to the stars and the songs they sang that mirrored the movements of celestial bodies. Aaron listened, captivated by the strange beauty of her world, imagining the shimmering cities and the starlit melodies. By the time they finally looked away from the observation deck, the stars outside seemed somehow closer. Aaron felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't expected, a quiet happiness that came from sharing these moments with someone who truly understood wonder. He realized that it wasn't just the stars that fascinated him anymore. It was the way Lyra saw them, and how she had slowly begun to see him as more than just a crewmate. For the first time since the journey began, Aaron felt a true connection, one that went beyond shared duties and casual conversation. It was a gentle, unspoken bond built on trust, curiosity, and the simple act of sharing stories under the infinite sky. As the ship moved silently through the galaxy, Aaron realized something important. Space was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but it was also a place where connections could grow, where hearts could meet across the void. And for him, Lyra had become the brightest light in the darkness, a guide not just among the stars, but in the journey of understanding and friendship. That night, as he finally returned to his quarters, Aaron found himself smiling. He didn't know what the future held or what challenges awaited them in the deep reaches of space. But he knew one thing. Having Lyra by his side made the journey feel less lonely, and infinitely more beautiful. The ship hummed steadily as it sailed through a quiet region of space. The crew had grown accustomed to the routine of their journey, but Aaron knew that space rarely stayed quiet for long. He spent his days monitoring systems and reviewing navigation charts, but he found himself constantly glancing toward Lyra. She moved with her usual calm, her eyes scanning the stars, fingers tracing invisible paths across her holographic maps. Aaron admired her skill, but he also admired her serenity, so rare in a universe that could change in an instant. One morning, an alarm pierced the calm. Red lights flashed across the control panels, and the voice of the ship's commander echoed through the corridors. "Asteroid cluster detected ahead. All hands prepare for maneuver." Aaron's pulse quickened. He rushed to his console, fingers flying over the controls as Lyra appeared beside him, her expression focused and unwavering. The cluster was massive, a swirling field of rocks and ice moving unpredictably. The ship would have to navigate carefully to avoid collision. "Aaron, stay with me," Lyra said, her voice calm but urgent. "Follow my instructions exactly. Trust the calculations." He nodded, swallowing his fear. "I'm ready." The next few minutes were a blur of movement and concentration. Lyra's hands moved over the navigation controls with precision, plotting a path through the cluster. Aaron mirrored her actions, adjusting thrusters, monitoring shields. After the asteroid field, the ship entered a quiet stretch of space. The hum of engines and the soft blinking of consoles filled the corridors. But for Aaron, it felt peaceful for the first time in days. He found himself wandering toward the observation deck, hoping to see the stars and perhaps to see Lyra. She was already there, as if she had known he would come. She stood near the railing, her pale blue eyes fixed on the sparkling lights that stretched endlessly before them. The distant stars reminded him of stories his grandmother had told him, about travelers and explorers who found wonder in the unknown. Now standing beside Lyra, he felt as if he were part of such a story. "Good evening," he said softly, not wanting to disturb her concentration. Lyra turned and smiled faintly. "Good evening, Aaron. The stars are particularly bright tonight. Do you see the one there?" She pointed toward a small cluster, its light twinkling like tiny diamonds. "My people call it the guiding light. It is said to show travelers the way when they feel lost." Aaron leaned closer, studying the cluster. "It's beautiful," he said. "I've never noticed it before. I usually focus on maps and coordinates, but this feels different." "It is different," Lyra said gently. "Not all stars are meant for navigation. Some are meant to inspire, to remind us of what is possible." Aaron felt a quiet warmth spread through him. He realized that Lyra's world was so much more than he had imagined. She didn't just guide the ship through space. She guided hearts through the vastness of the unknown. He wanted to know her better, to understand her thoughts, her feelings, her stories. For the next hour, they stood side by side, talking softly. Aaron told Lyra about Earth, the way sunlight would warm his face in the morning, the sound of birds singing in the trees, the smell of fresh bread baking in the village ovens. Lyra listened intently, her expressions shifting from curiosity to wonder. She asked questions, wanting to understand these human experiences that seemed ordinary to Aaron, but magical to her. In return, Lyra shared stories of her homeworld. She spoke of cities floating among clouds of soft light, of music that mirrored the movement of stars, and of traditions that honored the cosmos in every aspect of life. Aaron listened, captivated, imagining the gentle glow of her world and the rhythm of the songs that carried her people through time. As they spoke, a gentle sense of trust grew between them. There was no need to rush, no need to impress. The stars watched silently above, a vast audience to their quiet companionship. Aaron realized that he was no longer just curious about Lyra. He was drawn to her presence, her calm, and the way she made the universe feel less intimidating and more full of wonder. At one point, Lyra laughed softly at something Aaron said, a sound like the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze. It was brief, but it lingered in his mind, and he found himself smiling long after the sound had faded. The moment was small, but it mattered. In the endless expanse of space, it felt like they had found a pocket of warmth, a connection that was theirs alone. Eventually, the ship's routine called them back to their duties. Aaron reluctantly left the observation deck, but he glanced back at Lyra, who was still watching the stars. The sight filled him with a quiet hope. Perhaps space was not only a place of discovery and danger, but also a place where hearts could meet, even across the distances of worlds. That night in his quarters, Aaron thought of Lyra and the stories she had shared. He realized that the mission had already given him more than he had expected. It had given him wonder, friendship, and the first flickers of something deeper, a bond that could grow with trust and understanding. For the first time since the journey began, Aaron felt at ease. The stars above seemed less distant, and the vastness of space felt a little smaller, a little warmer. And somewhere in that vastness, Lyra was sharing the same view, the same quiet awe, and perhaps feeling the same connection that he did. The days after the quiet nights on the observation deck passed in routine work, but a subtle tension had begun to settle between Aaron and Lyra. It wasn't anything dramatic, not yet, but Aaron felt a small distance growing that he didn't fully understand. Lyra was still calm and polite, still guiding the ship with her usual skill. But there were moments when her eyes seemed distant, focused somewhere beyond even the stars. Aaron tried to speak with her during breaks, hoping to find the warmth of their earlier conversations, but she answered softly and briefly, moving away to check instruments or study star charts. He wondered if he had done something wrong, or if the bond he had felt was only one-sided. The thought made him uneasy, a strange knot in his chest that he couldn't easily untangle. One afternoon, a routine mission to scan a nearby nebula gave Aaron and Lyra a chance to work closely again. The nebula was a swirl of colorful gases, beautiful but dangerous as unpredictable currents could interfere with the ship's sensors. Aaron was ready to discuss navigation strategies when Lyra's voice was colder than usual. "Follow my instructions precisely, Aaron," she said, without her usual gentle inflection. "No deviations." Aaron hesitated. Her words sounded sharper than he had ever heard, and he felt a pang of frustration. He had trusted her instinct and skill countless times, but now it felt as though his judgment was unwelcome. "Of course," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady, though he felt a flicker of hurt. The work continued in silence, each of them focused on their stations. The nebula shimmered outside the viewports, a reminder that space could be as beautiful as it was dangerous. Aaron's thoughts kept drifting to Lyra, to the quiet moments they had shared under the stars, and now he wondered if those moments had been real for her, or just a fleeting curiosity. After the ship completed the scan and the danger passed, Aaron went to the observation deck alone, hoping to clear his mind. The nebula's colors glowed softly on the horizon, painting the blackness with reds and purples. He thought of Lyra and tried to understand her perspective. Perhaps she was worried about the mission, or perhaps her people had customs he didn't yet understand. He realized he couldn't assume that her calm and warmth meant the same things to her as they did to him. Lyra arrived silently, standing a few feet away, her eyes focused on the colorful clouds. For a moment, neither spoke. The nebula's beauty filled the space between them, but so did the tension of unspoken words. Finally, Aaron took a deep breath. "Lyra," he said carefully, "I feel like something has changed between us. Did I do something wrong?" Lyra turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "No, Aaron, you have done nothing wrong. But I must admit, I am not used to forming bonds outside my people. Your presence, it is unusual for me, and that makes me uncertain how to act." Aaron's chest lifted slightly with relief, though the uncertainty still lingered. "So, it's not about us, it's about your world?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. "I have grown fond of your company, but I fear what may come if I allow myself to feel too close. My people are cautious with matters of the heart, especially with those from other worlds." Aaron nodded slowly, understanding the struggle she faced. "I don't want to pressure you," he said. "I just want to be honest. I care about you, Lyra, more than I realized, and I hope that, over time, we can find a way to understand each other even if it's hard." Her eyes softened and a small smile appeared on her lips. "That is a very human way to speak, Aaron, perhaps. In time I can learn to accept it." They stood together, quiet now, sharing the nebula's colors and the gentle hum of the ship. The distance that had begun to grow between them didn't disappear entirely, but the honesty they had exchanged bridged part of it. Aaron realized that space was not only a place of discovery but also a place of patience, where bonds could be tested, stretched, and ultimately strengthened. That night, as the ship sailed through the calm reaches of space, Aaron felt a quiet hope. Challenges would come, doubts would arise, but he understood that the heart, like the stars, needed time to shine. And somewhere in that endless darkness, Lyra had begun to trust him not only as a crewmate, but as someone who might one day share more than just the journey through the stars. The ship had been cruising through a quiet sector of space for several days, the hum of the engines steady and reassuring. Aaron was reviewing navigation charts when the alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the consoles and the commander's voice echoed urgently through the corridors. "System malfunction detected. Main engine cooling failing. All crew to emergency stations." Aaron's heart jumped. He rushed to the control room where Lyra was already at her station, her expression calm but focused. The ship was drifting dangerously close to a cluster of small meteors, and if the engines failed completely, the consequences could be severe. "Aaron," Lyra said sharply, though without panic, "we need to stabilize the main engine and reroute power to the shields. I'll guide you through it. Follow my instructions exactly." Aaron nodded, gripping the controls. His hands trembled slightly, but he forced himself to stay steady. The situation was critical, but he trusted Lyra. She had guided him through danger before, and he knew that together they could manage this challenge. The next moments passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional warning beep from the consoles. Lyra's fingers moved with precision over the navigation panel, calculating power distributions and plotting a safe trajectory through the meteor cluster. Aaron followed her instructions, adjusting systems and monitoring energy levels, his focus entirely on the task. Divert 20% power to shields. Now, Lyra commanded. Aaron pressed the controls, heart racing. The ship shuddered slightly as the power shifted. Done, he replied. Good. Now reduce thruster output by 10% and keep an eye on the temperature gauges. Each command Lyra gave, each adjustment Aaron made, brought the ship a step closer to safety. The tension between them was intense, but it was accompanied by a sense of partnership that went deeper than any words could express. They moved as one, each understanding the other's instincts and timing without needing to speak. At one point, a small surge of energy threatened to overload the main engine. Aaron froze for a second, unsure of the right move, but Lyra's voice broke through immediately. Redirect auxiliary power. Now, Aaron. He followed her directions, feeling the heat of relief as the warning indicators dimmed. Lyra's calm presence and precise guidance saved them from disaster. Minutes later, the last of the meteors had passed, and the ship's systems stabilized. The alarms quieted and the normal hum of the engines returned. Aaron leaned back, exhausted but relieved. Lyra turned toward him, her expression softening. You did very well, she said. I could not have managed this alone. Aaron smiled, feeling a mix of pride and something warmer. We did it together, he said. I couldn't have done it without you. For the first time, their eyes met in a shared understanding that went beyond words. The danger they had faced had forced honesty and trust to the surface. The bond they had been careful to nurture now felt stronger, solidified by the crisis they had overcome side by side. Later, in the quiet of the observation deck, Aaron and Lyra stood together, watching the stars stretch endlessly before them. The colors of distant galaxies shimmered and comets streaked across the darkness, reminding them that even in a vast and unpredictable universe, moments of clarity and connection could be found. I was afraid, Aaron admitted softly. For the ship, for the crew, and maybe even for myself. Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. I was too. But you stayed calm even when it was difficult. That is what matters. Courage is not the absence of fear, Aaron, but the choice to act despite it. He nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Thank you for trusting me, he said. And thank you for trusting me, she replied. The silence that followed was not empty. It was filled with understanding, respect, and the unspoken acknowledgement of something more. The stars above them felt closer than ever, as if the universe itself had witnessed the moment their hearts had grown nearer. As the ship sailed on, Aaron realized that danger had a way of revealing not just strength but connection. Lyra was no longer just a navigator or a fellow crewmate. She had become someone he could rely on completely, someone who had already become an essential part of his journey, not only through space, but through the growing warmth in his heart. That night, as the engines hummed steadily and the stars watched silently, Aaron felt a quiet certainty. They had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger. The future was still unknown, but with Lyra beside him, he knew they could face whatever challenges awaited among the stars. The ship sailed silently through the vastness of space, the hum of engines like a gentle heartbeat against the darkness. Aaron walked to the observation deck, feeling a sense of calm he hadn't experienced before. The stars stretched endlessly, glittering like scattered jewels on black velvet. Somewhere among them, worlds waited to be discovered, but tonight Aaron's attention was elsewhere. Lyra was already there, standing at the edge of the deck. Her pale blue eyes reflected the countless stars above, and when she noticed Aaron, a small, genuine smile appeared on her lips. He walked toward her, feeling a warmth in his chest that had been growing since the first night he had joined her on this deck. Beautiful night, Aaron said softly, standing beside her. Yes, Lyra replied. It is as if the universe itself is watching over us tonight. They both looked up in silence, letting the quiet stretch between them. It was not awkward. Rather, it was comfortable, a shared moment of peace after the challenges and small conflicts they had faced. Aaron realized that in the vastness of space, moments like these were rare and worth cherishing. Lyra, he said finally, his voice careful but steady. I've learned a lot since this journey began, about the stars, about the universe, and about people. about connections that can grow even when worlds are so far apart. She turned to him, her expression softening. I have learned the same, she said. I was unsure at first, unsure if it was right to feel this way, unsure if someone from another world could understand me. But I have seen your heart, Aaron. You are honest, brave, and patient, and I trust you. Aaron felt a surge of emotion. The words he had hoped to hear, the understanding he had longed for, were finally there. He reached out gently, taking her hand in his. The simple gesture spoke more than any words could. I care for you, Lyra, he said quietly, more than I thought I could care. And I want us to face the stars together, not just as crewmates, but as something more. Lyra's gaze met his, unwavering and clear. I want that too, she whispered. I have felt the same, but I needed to understand to trust. And now I do. For a moment they stood together, hand in hand, letting the silence and the glow of distant stars fill the space around them. The ship continued its journey, carrying them through the galaxy, but for Aaron and Lyra, the moment felt infinite, as if time itself had paused to honor the bond they had found. Do you think, Aaron asked softly, that love can really exist across worlds, between people so different from each other? Lyra smiled, a gentle, hopeful smile. I believe it can. The universe is vast, but the heart is capable of bridging even the greatest distances. We have already proven that, haven't we? Aaron nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He realized that everything, the training, the dangers, the quiet nights under the stars, had led to this point. The challenges had not weakened them. They had made their connection stronger, more resilient, more certain. They spent the rest of the night sharing stories and laughter, speaking of dreams and hopes and imagining the worlds they had yet to see together. The stars continued to shine above, endless and bright, and for the first time, Aaron felt that their hearts were close to them too. As the ship sailed onward, the galaxy stretched infinitely in every direction, full of unknown wonders and possibilities. But Aaron no longer felt small or lost in its vastness. He had found someone who shared his journey, someone who made the universe feel less overwhelming and more alive. Lyra was beside him, and together, they were not just explorers of space, they were explorers of trust, hope, in the quiet beauty of a bond that had grown strong against all odds. And in that moment, standing hand in hand under the endless canopy of stars, Aaron and Lyra realized something simple yet profound. Love, like the stars, could shine even in the darkest corners of the universe, and sometimes the greatest discoveries were not of planets or nebulae, but of the hearts we choose to share our journey with. The stars twinkled silently above, vast, distant, and eternal. But for Aaron and Lyra, they felt close, as if the universe itself had smiled upon their bond. And in that quiet, infinite beauty, their hearts were finally at home, together close to the stars. With the ship safe, the journey continues. On the observation deck under endless stars, Aaron and Lyra stand together. There are still questions ahead about their worlds, about their future, but in that moment they choose closeness. They may be from different skies, but their hearts have found the same constellation. As the stars shine above, they realize that love itself is a journey, and they have only just begun. A young human pilot named Aaron joins an exploration mission to the outer rim of the galaxy. The crew includes people from Earth and other species, each with their own skills. Aaron feels both excited and nervous because this is his first journey so far from home. Among the alien crew is a quiet star navigator named Lyra, who belongs to a graceful species known for their connection to starlight. At first, Aaron only admires her from a distance, curious about her calm way of working. During long travel nights, Aaron notices that Lyra often spends time in the observation deck, staring at the stars. One evening, he gathers courage to join her. At first, their conversation is simple, about maps, stars, and travel. But slowly, Aaron learns that Lyra loves stories, especially human ones. She listens with wonder when Aaron tells tales of Earth skies, sunsets, and oceans. Their bond begins with small smiles and soft laughter. The ship encounters a dangerous asteroid field. Aaron and Lyra must work together to guide the ship through. In the pressure of danger, Aaron follows Lyra's instructions with trust, and she sees his courage shine. When they succeed, the crew celebrates, but for Aaron and Lyra, the moment feels more personal. Their trust has grown into something unspoken, a closeness that feels natural. Days pass and their friendship deepens. Lyra shows Aaron how her people read the stars like songs, while Aaron teaches her human ways of finding meaning in constellations. They spend hours in quiet company, learning each other's worlds. The others on the ship notice their closeness, but say nothing. Some things are too gentle to disturb. Not everything is easy. Aaron learns that Lyra's people rarely form bonds outside their own kind. He fears that she may never see him the way he sees her. Lyra, too, struggles with her feelings, drawn to him yet uncertain if their paths can ever truly meet. A small misunderstanding creates silence between them, leaving both unsure if they have gone too close to a line they cannot cross. When a sudden system failure threatens the ship, Aaron and Lyra are forced to act side by side again. In the heart of crisis, their words break free. Aaron admits that he values her more than he has ever said. Lyra, touched by his honesty, admits that she has felt the same but feared the future. Together, they repair the system and save the ship, but more importantly, they save the bond between them. With the ship safe, the journey continues. On the observation deck, under endless stars, Aaron and Lyra stand together. There are still questions ahead about their worlds, about their future, but in that moment they choose closeness. They may be from different skies, but their hearts have found the same constellation. As the stars shine above, they realize that love itself is a journey, and they have only just begun.